professionals from the legal services domain, lots of law firm partners who are going to be speaking today. We're doing this event one day after. Yesterday we had our 4th edition of the Global Legal Leaders Summit, which is essentially our law firm awards and our law firm conference. Former Justice of the Supreme Court, Justice Madan Lokur was a chief guest. There were guests of honor, Justice Ansari and others. And again, I sat through presentation. I made my own presentation on what are going to be the changes in if we are going to talk about what will happen in legal education, it has to mirror what will happen in the legal services domain. And what will happen in legal services domain has to mirror what will happen in the business domain. Welcome, Mr. Sudhakar Rao. He's a director with ICFI. Thank you for being here. So I did make a small presentation. I did not use a PowerPoint. But Mr. Mohit Saraf yesterday made a presentation, and I'm going to show that to you. It's not originally my presentation. It's Mohit's presentation, but I thought it's relevant. I, of course, talked about how the business world is changing, and hence legal services will change, hence the role of law firms will evolve. My first point was that half of the legal teams will not be lawyers in law firms. There'll be domain experts about the domains. There may be a domain expert on crypto, if crypto survives, or on NFT, or on blockchain, or on gaming. I'm taking areas that are absolutely new. In every other domain also there is. So half of I'll make it very brief. Half of the legal team will not be lawyers. Second, we talk of ERM and CRM, but contract lifecycle management will become very important. Again, no business is untouched by tech. There'll be no line between legal tech and tech. More than legal tech, mainstream law firms, the in-house departments of large companies will work with large tech players to be able to deliver what they are supposed to deliver. I said reading data will be as important as reading legal terms and contracts, and data will give you insights into solutions. I said legal teams will be measured on strict KPIs such as the money they make for the business. Lawyers, GCs making money. I already hear some legal counsels who are friends of mine. One of them who's part of a 1 lakh plus crore Indian company told me he saved 6,000 crores last year. I'm a profit center because he won an arbitration, couple of arbitrations which could have cost. So increasingly that will happen. Again, in any service business, whether it's education, let's not call education a business, but in any service domain or in legal services, the word experience is very important. Client experience will be at the heart of legal delivery. Also, this distinction in a company about what is a legal department, all standardized legal work will be permanently subsumed into the business. At the end of the day, they are intertwined. Also, the contracting process will go completely online, which will slash the time to complete deals. And again, as I said I went to a business school 30 years back, and they said at the business school, one of our professors, I don't remember which one, said, culture eats strategy for breakfast. And I didn't understand the impact till I acquired Businessworld 9+ years back. Because I built my first company, Exchange4media, from scratch. So the culture we built was the culture. Whereas Businessworld had a different culture before I bought it. And I must say that as the law firms and the legal professionals go into the next phase, managing culture and shifting mindsets will be essential to all law firms evolving to be law firms of the future. And last but not the least, legal chief operations officers will be just as important as general counsels because it will become so standardized, so technology driven. Human interface is not going to go away. But a lot of what we do will also use technology, and hence operations will become very important. I said legal chief operation officers will be just as important as general counsels. Now, Mr. Saraf made a presentation which I thought was very, very relevant, and it's his presentation. And these are from yesterday's, my notes from yesterday. Justice Madan Lokur spoke about simplicity. He talked about how the growth of Indian economy has happened over the last 20 years. He talked about how we've grown 7-fold in our GDP. And our per capita income has also gone 5 times. And also how the number of law schools have quadrupled. You can see there are almost 1800 law schools, okay? So clearly the profession is growing, there is no question. By the way, I want to ask you, how many cases, what is the pendency of cases? What is the number? How much? Who say 50 million? Yes, sir. I was surprised, Justice Lokur mentioned this yesterday, 5 crore cases in pendency. 5 crore cases in pendency. Approximate, he said, yes. But still it gives, it's a large number. Yeah. And again, there is improved respect for the legal profession. Lawyers' compensation has gone up as a profession. It's getting more money. Growth of law firms and diversification, the rise of the general counsel, and increased integration of legal function into business and growth strategy. So clearly, more and more people will come into the profession because of these things. And again, as we move into a GDP, and again, because of the dollar-rupee conversion, we are impacted. Otherwise, it should have been a 5 trillion GDP already by now at the rate we are growing. So all this augurs well for people. As the economy grows, the need for legal services will grow. The need, unfortunately, for litigation, for conflict resolution will grow. Because, and of course, I said, and then this is, as I said, not my presentation. I'm boring, but I thought it is relevant for this audience. Last decade has been again a decade of transformation. When you look at the government, and I use my own terminology, I said there is a Silicon Valley which is about innovation and scale, and then there is a valley in China which is the valley of surveillance, I call it. They spy on everybody in the world, they don't allow outside apps. And then I said India is creating a valley of good, of public good. You look at UPI, you look at CoWIN, ONDC early days, and I said if we can imagine an open source architecture for legal services, maybe we can solve the 50 million pendency issue in a couple of years, bring it down. Improvement in ease of doing business, and the single point that everyone made was that the enforcement of contracts has become tougher. And that's the biggest thing. Of course, we know that number of smartphone users in India is more than US and China put together. Digital direct benefit transfers, social digital connectivity, digital public infrastructure I talked about, and formalizing of Indian economy with GST, right? Also, our corporate tax at par with peers, the insolvency and bankruptcy code has made sure that there is increased lenders' confidence. Again, there are issues with that, but let's look at the positives. Of course, I'm very touchy about haircuts, and in insolvency there is lots of haircuts happening, but that's a topic of another debate. Increased number of rural housing projects after establishment of RERA. The FDI is also growing, and we have record foreign reserves of $600 billion. So that's not small, considering where we were 10 years back. And the MNCs, you saw the Prime Minister was in the US, he got literally a red carpet welcome in every aspect. And of course, it's about his leadership, but it's also about India's, place in the world economy. We are the largest consumer of everything. And as we are growing, we will be. So our domestic consumption-led economy is the biggest market for every company. We are the largest buyer of almost everything in the world, right? So clearly, and of course, India's export market expected to rise to 4.5%. So again, everything is positive. We can, now, has the legal services system and the legal domain responded to the last hundreds of outdated laws have been removed from the statute book, increased effort toward decriminalization of corporate laws, several new amendments and regulatory streamlining, for example, in the Companies Act, SEBI, IBC, GST, virtual court hearings during the pandemic, and it has been utilized to its best potential. filing of vacancies in the High Court and the Supreme Court. Arbitration in India has grown in both significance and respect. Of course, Mr. Lalit Bhasin made a point that arbitration has not really served its purpose. Its purpose was two. One, to fast track, and second, to be a cheaper way. On both, it has failed. It has not worked like it has. I was part of I had a litigation, luckily won it 4 years back, better than we expected, God's kindness and our law firm's hard work. But I went through an arbitration process. I'm going through one more in some commercial dispute. It's not a cheap process. It's not so mediation. And we had the panchayats, we had the, village courts, samjhauta. But what we need to do better is the enforcement of contract remains poor. India ranked 186 out of 192 countries in 2015. In 2020, it is ranked 163. So this part hasn't kept progress. And as you know, most wars, can't say all, are about economic. You take wars in every part of the world. I'll not get into, otherwise I'll sound like a conspiracy theorist. But they're about economic. The reason there is so much litigation in India because it is economically beneficial to litigate. If you have to pay somebody money and if you pay it after 5 years, you save money because the interest cost for borrowed money is cheaper. And again, Justice Lokur gave lots of examples yesterday why elsewhere there is a cost of extending litigation and there is a certain system that works, which hasn't worked in India. The scale and scope of legal reforms are not good enough to handle the growth for the next 10 years. More effort and attention needed by all stakeholders. And that's why mediation. The good news is when economy will triple, legal work goes up by 4 to 6 times. Whether it's mergers and acquisitions work, whether it's contracts, whether it's dispute resolution, the legal services will grow. Growth of economy is leading to exponential growth of transactions, litigation, and arbitration. And broadly, the areas where work is happening is business expansion and transactions, complex compliance is a big issue. Take insurance is such an important area for insurance firms to be, it's a very regulated domain. Contractual disputes, IPR, protection, employment dispute, investor-state dispute, consumer and competition. In all these areas, work will grow. Now, there are demand-side changes that are needed, substantive law reforms to disincentivize frivolous litigation. Because a lot of that 50 million is frivolous. And again, there was a white-collar crime panel which I was listening to, and someone asked Mr. Pramod Dubey that why do the people who win, or in the sense who were accused of something by the ED, and when they are rightly given the right judgment by the court, why don't they go and challenge and ask compensation? So of course Mr. Dubey replied, peace of mind, you don't want to fight with the state again. Simple, there's nothing complex. But the fact is, what can be better is the award of damages in the Contract Act, interest payments is norm for delay, implied terms to be read only in rarest of rarest cases, the Penta test, better quality legislation. Justice Lokur said Supreme Court built a museum and they asked from all the High Court's material to be displayed in the museum. And the Bombay High Court, Garima, it was the Bombay High Court, I think, he mentioned that he sent a single page contract document because he was trying to make this point that contracts have become so complex. Contracts should be simple. They run into pages and pages and pages. And the contract has a central tenet so a short contract was put because such contracts have become literally, artifacts, so to say. So point is, I'm just laying you are experts in the legal services and legal services education. Now, supply side changes, improvements in judicial process, better case management, court automations, appointment of better quality judges and capacity building, regular training of judges, regulatory streamlining, limited judicial interference in arbitration. Also, Justice Lokur was the chairman of a committee, and I think FICCI did it. How, like in Malaysia, in the Supreme Court, the Chief Justice of the Supreme Court couple of years back appointed a CEO for fast-tracking cases from administrative side, technology. So the process of judicial services, in the process of administration of judicial services was segregated, and it worked in bringing down the pendency. Can we do that in India? Now there are arbitration delays, there's court interference, lack of specialized tribunals, limited arbitrator pool, lack of cost efficiency, and then there are the enforcement challenges. Of course, every business is getting impacted by technology and artificial intelligence. The Deloitte report suggests over 100,000 legal roles can be automated by 2036. But in every domain, AI will become a tool. It will take over some low-end jobs. But by definition, AI will evolve, so it will get better. But for now, it is what has happened in the past. It predicts the future from the past, which is not necessarily the right way to predict the future. Though they say you must read history to be able to know what will happen in the future, and some things haven't changed. But AI can provide significant support in the following: legal research, document review and contract analysis, due diligence and discovery process, predictive analysis, legal automation and workflow automation, e-discovery and data management, client interaction, and support. So and for law firms, yesterday we had the law firms conclave. There's a pressure on fees. There is in every domain there is, how can you do more with less in terms of clients? Talent retention, because somebody at our GC conference, the next GC conference on 9th of July, Meridian, is that GCs are becoming, in our jury meet for GCs, just before the jury meet started, some of the jury members had a comment that, young people from law firms are joining startups as GCs, but they're not really GCs. But let me say, the age of achievement in every domain is coming down. Today, my parents are both academicians. My dad is going to be 84 soon. My mother is 82 plus. Both led large institutions in academics. But they, near to their retirement age, they started heading that. But today, you take any domain, even in education, the average age of a director of an institution is coming down because of academicians. So I think you have to take cognizance of what's happening. So the law firms lose talent, the technology adoption, and there are challenges of diversity and inclusion. Now, the key challenges for the in-house counsels are increasing workflow. How do you align your growth with legal requirements? Risk management is a big area. How do you acquire talent and retain? As I said, startups come by, they offer wealth creation more than anything. They offer, independence, because if you're in a large firm, if you're a mid-sized professional and you get an opportunity to head the function, how do you deal with technology adoption? And honestly, the legal costs in India are very, very high. While the profession should do very well and it continues to do well, the legal costs are amongst the highest in the world. So how do you change that? Conclusion, what got us here won't get us there. Firms, in-house teams, lawyers will need to adapt and be agile to changing tides, pay more attention to reform and shape policy to create. And lawyers are incredibly influential people. The policymakers, the government, the politicians ask for their advice. Every party has their share of lawyers advising them. And every reform is what I call a political economy initiative. It has economy, it has politics intertwined. The government looks at public good, but also looks at what will go down well. Adoption of new and emerging technology should be focused. Human oversight and common caution needed. And most importantly, which is very relevant to this audience of law, education, leaders, deans, directors, is not only legal skills, but acquiring interdisciplinary expertise. Management, leadership, mentorship, and soft skills are very important. And the kind of people who have that will do well. And that's true for almost every profession, not just true of legal. But because it's a domain that relies on technical knowledge and presentation of the technical knowledge in a coherent, simplistic way that makes, for example, there may be a new area where there's no precedent. Look at gaming or NFTs. So how do you explain to the judge? So communication plays a very important role in every domain, but in this. So that's what I would say uh, is the context in which we are doing the future of legal education conclave, the next chapter in legal education. All of you are eminently qualified because you've trained humongous between the people present in this room. You've trained humongous number of professionals who have gone on to make significant impact in the legal services domain and in the business domain. I'm sure you're even more well versed than I am in what's happening both in the business domain and in the legal services domain. This is the second year of the legal education conference. Hopefully we'll do it with a longer planning next year. Last year we did it in a small format at IIC. This year we're doing it the Imperial. And like children, I have two grown-up children, conferences, IPs, initiatives, communities grow. I'm sure this will become a marquee event for us as we work on it throughout the year. Right now we work on it 2-3 months just before the event. My kudos to Garima and the BW Legal World team for putting it together. Thank you for bearing me here. And I must say that we are not in the business of magazines, website events, digital. We do all that. But we are in the business of building communities. Our BW Legal World community, which is almost a now 45th month of its existence. We have a long way to go on that, but we will invest more and more and hopefully be of some value to you, to your students, to the professionals. And the way we define our BW Legal World editorial product is that the three stakeholders that matter to us are the GCs, the in-house general counsels, the legal departments, the law firms, and the legal education community. All our events are only in this domain. We're not about what's happening at the local courts level or the judiciary level. If it impacts business, we're at the confluence of business and law. That's how we define our editorial product. So I would welcome you to be at the 9th July event, which is a GC event, where about 70 odd GCs are speaking. As of now, 70, hopefully 80, 90 GCs. Garima does legal events on a Sunday because Mr. Sudhakar Rao was asking me why Sunday. Because the legal profession is busy from Monday to Friday. Saturday is lighter, but it's not zero. So hence Sundays, that's the only reason we are doing this on a Sunday. Otherwise, every day is a good day to do any initiative which adds to the community. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to your presentations, your ideas, your comments on the future of legal education. Thank you. God bless you.